All right, guys. Welcome to the Aligning with Success call. Let's see, what day is it today? February 6th, Monday, February 6th. There's so much going on. I hope you feel what I'm feeling, certainly. I'm being pulled in so many different directions, which is always a good thing when it comes to this business. So I think we've got a good, strong movement started. People are starting to see their roles and responsibilities, their part in this. And it's really important that you see it, because to recognize, I know there was a big mental shift for me when I came to the realization that Nikken wasn't something separate and apart from me, that it wasn't something bigger than me, that we are it. Like, without us, there is no Nikken. So our role, our responsibility in giving birth to this second wave is really front and center stage. Just to recognize that you're not a small player. Even if you've got a small business, I mean, when I launched Nikken, I was a nobody, guys. When I came on the scene, nobody knew if this kid from Toronto was going to amount to anything, and I just took ownership of the business and ran with it. And so that's kind of where we're at. We're at a point right now where everybody sort of needs to take ownership of their business and recognize that you have an opportunity as well as a potential responsibility for being that person who people will be pointing to in the years to come and say, yeah, they're from this neck of the woods. They're that person. And so obviously our goal is to find new people, but you're going to be the ones who manage those people and give them the best start possible because of your experience. So it's not as if I'm expecting everyone to do what they did when they first got involved. I'm looking at, what would you do now that you know what you know? And how would you approach this? How would you apply yourself? So it's a little bit more strategic. I think our business is an easier sell now. That's one of the conversations I actually had with my colleague from Montreal, is that this is an easier sell. It's a much more suited sell to the end consumer, because it's a well-rounded product line. The storyline is solid. This makes a whole lot of sense. So anyway, I'm just trying to think about what this last month has been for me, as I've traveled for various places, from crowds numbering in the hundreds to numbering in the tens, and it doesn't really matter what the size of the audience is. What does matter is who's there and are they bringing new people. And so I'm happy to say that is the case. We are, in fact, the last event that I was at was one of the smaller ones. It was in White Rock, BC, but 27 people, 17 were guests. So that's a really nice statistic. I don't care what season we're in. That's a pretty good number. So how can I help you this evening align with success, get a better handle on what that looks like for you personally, and how I can or we can collaborate here to give each other a hand? Any questions from the field? Anything you need to know? By the way, the flyer, the automated flyer, you do have to submit 2 photos. Even if you know I have my picture, even if you know I have Ben's picture, you still need to submit 2 photos, because there's no guarantee that I'm going to have the 2 photos that somebody's going to send at some point in time. But to educate everybody on, oh, yeah, no, you don't have to send it because I got this one. There's too much interaction so it's just send 2 pictures. If it's a picture of Ben that you pulled off of the internet, don't worry, we've got that one covered. And we know we've got most of them covered, but we don't have all of them covered. So it's just going to be the protocol. 1, 2, we're editing it again, because for some reason I can't make this thing simple enough, it seems.
You're doing great.
So hopefully this next iteration will be really just that simple, that it won't really require any hand holding. Anyways, so that's a work in progress. So questions.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I have a question.
I have a question.
Okay, let's go with Michelle first and then Carol next. Go ahead.
Okay. Madeline and I are hosting the product showcase and we want to change it to Thursday evening. Do we contact Diana to do this? Okay.
Yeah, she's kind of QBing on that right now because I sort of got my hands full. So yeah, if she's published, I don't even know if she's published the schedule on the Royal Alliance, but yeah, let her know. That way she can modify whatever schedule she's got, because I'm not monitoring that one.
Now, what about the use of the RA Live, the Niken Live call?
Okay,
like
so
Friday night, I have Randy that's going to be coming into my 5:30 p.m. one, and people have been asking about being able to watch it on RA Live. So 5:30 p.m. on Friday Eastern time, there usually isn't anybody in a slot.
Right. Okay. So let me just clarify what the RA Live slot is for. It's for repeat. So a show that's on a regular basis. So if you've got one of those and you know that slot is open, then we need to put you in that slot and note it somewhere so people know not to interfere with that. I had a request for one of the events I don't know if it's this weekend or the next weekend, where they're going to be online for about an hour and a half, and they asked if they could use the RA site, and I said that's fine, only it's a special event, and it's not going to compete with any event that's regularly scheduled. So it's kind of like television, you know, hey, we have the special event preempting any whatever. Same idea, but that particular channel is not for anybody doing an event. It's specifically for events that are programmed and we can rely on some type of a schedule. And where that schedule should be published, if it's not, is on the Royal Alliance events calendar. So if you go to Royal Alliance and you click events, there's a pull down menu and you see all the different events. There should be RA Live. When you click on that, that should bring up the PDF of the thing, but it's not been updated. And Diana was supposed to kind of take a lead on that. So get that information back to her if you want to host a regularly scheduled event on the Royal Alliance Live, which is what you're on right now. So this is how we get onto this one, ralive.com/live or royalalliance.com, theroyalalliance.com/live, and anybody can easily use that. So if you want to have a regularly scheduled event, we'll create a flyer for that, and we'll just post it.
Okay, and then I have another question. Madeline and I have done some tweaking and updated the original product showcase presentation.
I saw it, and it's way too much. It's
too much?
And not only is it too much, it's not branded. It does not look professional.
Okay.
So when you go away from standardization, you compromise the look and feel. I know you guys got good stuff, but unless there's graphics people involved, you're going to create an impression, and the impression is not professional. So if you want to do some changes to PowerPoints and stuff like that, don't just do a ad hoc thing. If you're going to modify them, get them into the hands of somebody who can shape them into a clean, professional look. Otherwise, the impression you're leaving is that it's unprofessional. Even though you have the content, it's the way the content appears. I think it was McLuhan said the medium is the message. So that's the reason why, by the way, we're standardizing so much of this, is not because it's the best presentation. It's just because it's the best looking presentation. And it can say, you can sort of ad-lib in there. So I didn't get into the fine tooth of that. It was just first impression, what I saw. Okay. First impression.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
There was a question, Carol?
Yeah. Is my voice better now?
Yes, it's good.
The problem is that I can't hear very good when it's down, but and you may have already covered this because I'm just kind of sliding in, but I'm wondering what the focus in terms of weekly meetings would be, because
Okay, let me back up, because There's a tendency for the pendulum to swing whenever we get involved in any type of conversation about anything. You know, something becomes a norm, and then all of a sudden, it loses the focus. What was the purpose? Events, you don't have events for the sake of having events. You have events because it's part of a pipeline. It's part of a process. So most of the events, and I'll give an example of this, wellness previews. Back in the day when we used to host a weekly wellness preview, a person measured the success of the preview by how many people were in attendance. So if you were the host of a preview, you would say, oh, look, we had a great preview because we had this many people in it. But that was actually a false measurement, because what they should have been measuring is how many of their people were in the event. Because the host tended to lose sight of their own business interests when it was just about how many people showed up. So they were serving a role for Crossline and so forth, but they were losing sight of how much impact they were having on their own personal business when they weren't measuring the number of people they had and the number of guests that they had. So the tendency then was eventually it would catch up with them, and then they would say, well, we're going to have one every 2 weeks. And then they would back off on the rhythm, which is an implosion. And that only accelerates the implosion. Then, well, we're going to do once a month. And so what it is the same concept of the pebble in a pond. When you drop a pebble in a pond, you make a big splash, and then the waves start to ripple out, which is typical of our business. But at some point in time, you're going to look back at the middle, and there's not going to be much going on. And that's really how the wellness previews were. But you were almost trying to force that preview to keep going, but there was no flow of people into that preview to support the preview, because the preview was a public event. And why you needed that in the first place was because you couldn't fit everybody in your living room. If you go back in time, you'll realize, okay, wait, I started this business in my living room or my kitchen table, and pretty soon it was the living room, and pretty soon I couldn't fit anybody in the living room. We had to go to a public venue. And then all of a sudden, the public venue was the forced event, even though the numbers were fluctuating because the feeder system wasn't working. The daily prospecting, contact, and invite, you lost sight of that. It was just about the numbers at the preview. So all of a sudden, the preview was supposed to do everything for everybody in one shot. The process collapsed. It no longer fed the preview then collapsed, and then that's the natural ebb and flow of how this works if you don't keep your eye on the ball. So the rhythms of the business are daily. Without the daily, the rest will fall apart. So the daily is contacting, inviting new people, and following up with people to engage them in the process or to follow up in the process. So that's the first conversation. The second conversation, if you remember the zigzag that I draw, the second conversation is the presentation. Is the presentation / validation experience, where they learn about Nikan, they learn about the products, they learn about how this is impacting people, and they make an evaluation of whether they want to be a customer or a consultant on that experience. That generally happens in an in-home, but then can expand into a preview if you gather up Crossline. And by the way, Crossline could be you have 3 legs going all at one time. They are cross-lined to each other. Now, at this point in time, many of us are all cross-lined to each other. So we're working together so that we can have an experience at a public level that is interesting for somebody going there for validation. So that's the benefit and the beauty of collaboration and these tools of interacting through communication tools like this, so that we can collaborate. We can see, okay, who's in this particular neck of the woods, so we can gather that group up and make a good event. So we're at that point in time where we all hands on deck. I like to say everybody needs each other to make a good event a good event. But the daily rhythm is the contact invite. That feeds the weekly rhythm, which would be the presentations. And then the monthly rhythm is essentially the lock-in. It's where the rubber meets the road. It's where people really make decisions about how they want to engage their Nikan business. Because some people will get involved, some people will buy products, but they haven't really made a commitment to launch. So I consider a completed process is when somebody makes the commitment to launch. Now, we didn't really have a standardized launch platform or standardized launch format. But what Niken has given us now is an incentive plan that is perfectly suited to be a launch strategy for anybody. So your first kickoff with somebody is get the Entrepreneurs Club done. What's that? That's going to identify 3 key leaders. So if I do my Entrepreneurs Club correctly, then what'll happen is they'll expose some 30 people to the process, out of which half of them will become customers, about 9 or 10 of them will become consultants, and about 3 of them will show up for the party after the party and want to duplicate. And so you've completed an exercise called launching somebody, and from that, they should qualify for the Entrepreneurs Club. They should identify their 3 key people and probably have gone silver in the process. They should now also have a collection of 5 to 10 new customers who are just retail customers. So in one boom, one kick of the can, we've accomplished so much where one person's concerned. Now what happens? Well, now they have their 3 people. They're going to repeat that launch now as a launch host themselves with your guidance. And if they're launching 3 people, you may not be able to fit this in one living room. You're either going to have 3 separate living rooms, or you're going to have to combine them into some venue. And now that might make more sense if everybody's living in the same town. So now the preview is born out of necessity to accommodate this launch window that we have 3 people launching simultaneously. And the consequence of their successful launch is that they hit Entrepreneurs Club. Your person that you first kicked off, they just hit what? Paragon. They hit Paragon. So we got our second award in the running. So that's how I see a proper planning of why your event schedule is what your event schedule should be. If you're just having an event, saying, okay, Thursdays are my event, then you're doing what I call the onesies and twosies to fill that event with 1 or 2 prospects. It's not centered around a launch of somebody. So you want to identify somebody as quickly as possible and then run this launch strategy where they're concerned. We have talk about a game and a half yesterday. How many of you guys watched the game yesterday? Holy smokes. Then that was something, huh?
Of course I
Well, did you see Suzanne smiling up there? Yes. You
wouldn't have believed that thing unless you saw it for yourself. It was almost impossible to imagine when you're watching it. It's like, this can't be happening. It was just crazy, but it was exciting. But just the point being, these guys plan a play. I mean, a play is an execute, they are going to execute a play. And if they're successful, bang, we got, a first down, or we got a touchdown, or whatever. So a launch is executing a play. That's pretty much what it is. So we're on the lookout for people who we can execute this play with. And when we find somebody, do it. Say, this is it. This is the play. Let's go. And if they're not sure they want to do it, then they're not through the process yet. That's just a clue for you to say, okay, they haven't yet finished the process. What step have I missed? In those 3 conversations plus a lock-in, which step has been missed? And then you'll quickly gather what needs to happen next where that person's concerned, because if they're not saying yes to the launch, then they're not a launch partner for you. And so you want to get those launch partners as quickly as possible. Any questions?
Well, but in line with that, on the Platinum Alliance call today, some of the people that met with you in Salt Lake City talked about the whiteboard. So there's people on here that didn't hear about the whiteboard. So could you share what Rachel and whoever else was sharing today about the whiteboard? Oh, Ruth Lowe, what she's doing with the whiteboard. She kind of shared it on the PA call today.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I think I've been pretty much expressing that. So the whiteboard, if I'm not mistaken, because I need context here, I have so many conversations. If I'm not mistaken, she's talking about what my plan would be for somebody when I launch somebody. Yeah. So I'm doing that right now. So my plan for somebody right now is if they say yes, and I'm pushing their buttons and I'm saying, look, these are my dates. I can fly there and we go. So next week I may be launching somebody, and the Paragon Award is what I'm launching them into. That's our plan, Paragon. So my first meetings with them will be to identify 3 key people who we are going to launch in the next key meetings. So the goal is Paragon. It's just that's going to happen as a consequence of this proper plan being launched. And it's not a 3-month plan. In this case, it's 2 weeks. It's like boom, boom. 2-3 days per meeting section. So 2-3 days, and then again 2-3 days. So it's boom, boom.
So you're going to fly into there, meet with them, which the Entrepreneurs Club is going to create those 3 people, or they would have created them, and you're going to work on the Paragon when you go to meet with them.
Yeah, the Entrepreneurs Club, the Paragon, these are all things that happen as a consequence. Okay? There's somebody who's got a TV on in the background here. I'm going to ask whoever it is that has their television on running in the background to mute. I can't mute this one for whatever reason. So again,
everybody should mute themselves.
Ginny, is that Ginny? She's not muted. He's not muted. Okay, so so again, the awards should be happening as a consequence. So let me play it differently, because this is where it might get confusing for you. There's what you and I talk about, internal dialogue, okay? And then there's what I talk about where the people we're meeting with are concerned. So there's our strategy, and then there's the overall strategy. So I don't have the same conversation with the prospects as I do with the person I'm launching. So with the person I'm launching, there's a strategy involved that will consequently have them hit Entrepreneurs Club and Paragon. The focus is find their team, launch their team. So the communication to the public is find the team, launch the team, find the team, launch the team, find the team, launch the team. Those are the 2 phases, the step 1, step 2, phase 1, phase 2, find the team, launch the team. So if I find the team properly, the Entrepreneurs Club is what is achieved. And that just gives us something to keep score. You know, at the end of the day, they should be silver, not just Entrepreneurs Club, but it's a way to keep score. Okay. So it's like, you know, you got so many seconds left and you don't know if you won or you didn't win unless you get the points above whatever so this just kind of gives us a scorecard. It's not just finding 3 people, it's finding 3 people that produces an end result. So there's a scorecard. That's the Entrepreneurs Club. First phase. Second phase is launch those 3 people. So launching those 3 people would result in a Paragon. Now, I'm going to be meeting with these people with them knowing that there's going to be their launch, which is imminent in the time frame that I've committed to coming back. So they're being prepped and communicated to from the very beginning that this is our strategy, this is our plan, because what we're asking them to do is to commit to our plan, our strategy, to launch. That's the distinction between saying join Niken and join now versus join Niken, join now, and here's why you're joining me, because this is what we're doing. So it's that added component of what is it that you're doing that would cause a sense of urgency for them to marry their calendar with your calendar so that you're on the same page at the same time executing a plan. It's that common goal. So it's having that conversation, because people can join Niken anytime, and you're going to give them a compelling reason why they should join Niken. You're going to give them a compelling reason. They're going to have their own reason for why they should join now. But the last piece of it is, what are we going to do now that I've joined? What does that mean? What's day 1? What's day 5? What's day 10? So you've got to give them a game plan. Here's the game plan. And so that's part of the conversation, which I call conversation number 3. So conversation number 1 is, why are we having a conversation in the first place? What's the motivation for this whole thing? Second is, how am I going to be able to realize the potential of that conversation? How is Nikan and the business opportunity, et cetera, fit that bill? How is this drill bit going to make that hole that I'm looking for? And then the last conversation is, what do I need to do to succeed? What do I need to do? And that what conversation is your plan, is your action plan, your game plan. So moving them into action is very important. Having your own game plan is very important, because you should have your own dates with destiny. When is your first Entrepreneurs Club going to get done? Because that puts out a law of attraction field, if you will, to attract somebody to fit that role. You're casting for a person to be an Entrepreneurs Club member. So when is your first one going to get done? Or when will your 3 people be identified? So when you have your own drop dead dates for your business plan, that causes you to move into an action, maybe different than what you would normally have if you didn't have a commitment to, it's like a house. When you're building a house, they have to pour the foundation. You can't put the roof on until they pour the foundation, until they frame, etc. So, but somebody's got to be ready to put the roof on when it comes time to put the roof on. So you got to plan this stuff out, and you got to pretty much make sure that when you begin, everybody keeps coming to the job and keeps doing the work so that it gets done in the time that's been allocated for it. So that when it's time to put the kitchen's ready, and so forth. So no different here. It's giving yourself a schedule to meet for yourself, for your own goals, is very, very important. Because what will happen, I'm trying to give you an example of this. Okay, so here's an example. I helped a diamond break in Mexico City last month. And when they went into the month, they were halfway through the month. They were not even 20% of the way there. So it didn't even look like it was within the realm of possibility. But of course it was possible. Everything is possible. You just have to accept that truth. And then you operate from that understanding that everything is possible and that things can happen that you would not otherwise be able to predict. And stuff happened. I mean, on the very last day, the computer systems in Mexico went down. I mean, like, that was it. And I just started laughing. And she's like, this never happens. I said, well, it had to happen because we made a decision this was going to happen. So the universe is complying. It's providing us with a little window of opportunity to take advantage of it. And it was all perfectly, it was like, if you look back, you'd think it was perfectly ordained. It had to happen that way. So it's just what happens when you put it out there and then expect. So when we set a goal for ourselves, when we put our plan out there, when we set expectations for ourselves and we put it out there, then things are going to operate within us and around us that would not normally operate that way because we are now operating in a different vibration. So it's real. What was so great for me was to go through this experience with this person, first of all, teaching the law of attraction on their stage a couple of weeks earlier, maybe a week earlier, and then be able to say, okay, see, now we have a perfect example of the real life experience. Here's the theory, and here's the actual practical experience of it. You just experience, you just witness. You're now an eyewitness to your own experience of this. And so we had a call, we actually had a conference call to recap for the group to be able to look back and say, okay, now you guys own this. You now have experienced it. You now own it. Now make more happen, make more magic happen. So it's real important that we apply this principle faithfully and as a matter of fact. and you'll see your business. You'll see things happen that you just would not predict. People will come into your life. Situation. Come on, every one of you on this call has had this happen. You know it. It's just it's so random that you're not recognizing it, that it's not random at all. So I'm saying, rather than it being what appears to be a random act, let's make it a purposeful one where we on purpose become captains, commanders of the law, where we apply the law religiously and faithfully as it's been told and taught to us.
Mike, could I just say something? On a mastermind call, one of the girls said, I am on purpose, in process, and efficient. I love that.
How do you feel when you say something like that?
It gives me goosebumps.
Well, feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. So if you're getting goosebumps, that means that's a pretty high level of vibration. So that's going to impact the people that you're talking to, and the circumstances that you'll experience as a consequence. By the way, that's another tool, an affirmation. Write affirmations, not so much, I am so happy and grateful now that I am a diamond, blah, blah, blah. Write affirmations about how you would feel if that were so, in the present tense. So it's almost as if you're describing yourself to somebody in the affirmative. I am this, I experience this happens all the time. So express that emotion, that feeling of what it's like if that were true about you. And then make those your affirmations, because that causes you to move into a vibration like Michelle just expressed, causes you to move into a vibration. And when you switch frequencies, so does the radio stations around you. You know, the situation around you switches. Madeline, you're muted. Go ahead.
Okay, so what happened then when they were 20% away from diamond before the end of the month and they made it? So
they were on the last day of the month, before the computer systems shut down. They were at, I believe they were at 80% of the way. So they still had another 20% to go. But they couldn't get orders in. They couldn't, there was no way of tracking things. So now guess what happened, by the way? What happened was phone calls, things that they had to actually do because the computers weren't working. And so that changed, like Veronica said, she sold 3 water filters and whatever it was in one day. She says, I don't do that a month. I got that in one day. It's like, it's just, that's what starts to happen. Magic. It's just what happens when we start to use this law faithfully, when we start to go into that space and that spirit of being. Just things happen. Just don't make it something that you do once in a while, infrequently and randomly. Do it with purpose. I can't stop talking about this because this call is aligning with success. And as a physicist, as an engineer, I know there is a version of you, all fields of possibility coexist. Okay? Creation has ended. Some of you have read the Bible, didn't understand that creation is over. Like all of creation coexists, which means every possible version of everything already exists on some frequency. Now, all we have to do is start to experience it by tuning into the frequency. So there's a version of you that's healthy. There's a version of you that's a diamond or a royal diamond. They already exist in the realm of possibility, which exists within the space of infinite, which is what we define God as, right? So within the context of possibility and there's probability. What is probable? What's probable is where we place our thoughts and our energy. That becomes more and more probable. And so if ever you've gone to a psychic, for those of you who are interested in psychics, I'll tell you what you're reading, what they're reading. All they're reading is the direction of your momentum at that moment in time, which can change in an instant. So don't hold on to their prophecy as if this is exactly what's going to happen. All they're giving you, they may be dead accurate, by the way. They may be bang on in terms of they can sense the vector. This is the direction you're going in. If you continue to go in this direction, well, the trajectory of that becomes self-evident. But you can change that in a moment's notice. So what they're reading is the field, the probability field, or what this also called is the morphogenetic field. They're reading the probability, the magnetic field that you've attracted to yourself has a trajectory, has a movement. It's going in a specific way. So if you want to change that, you just have to change your frequency. So change the frequency, which means get in alignment with the thoughts, feelings, and actions of somebody else. Not the person you're being, but the person you would rather be being. And that's instant. And then, of course, yeah, it requires discipline in order for you to maintain that position when there's so much momentum behind this version of you, the one that you know so well. It requires discipline. But I say it requires faith. If you become faithful to this version of yourself and dismiss this one as simply the past, then this is the version of yourself that you will begin to have more and more and more probability of experiencing until, in fact, it manifests. So we're just shifting from an infinite number of possibilities to a more probable outcome based on our thoughts, feelings, and actions. That's it. That is the law in a nutshell. And it is as accurate and as specific as any spiritual text you've ever read. I can show you the metaphorical representations of that in the Bible. So I know this law is the real thing. It's just that we don't practice it the way it was taught. Whatever you ask for and you pray for, ask as though you have received them. How would you ask for something you already received? What would be the words that come out of your mouth?
Thank you.
Yeah. Everybody always says that, by the way. I don't care how big the crowd is. I ask that question, and the first thing that comes out of somebody's mouth is thank you. So gratitude, the attitude of gratitude is the frequency that brings you in harmony with creation. So you act as though you have already received it. You become grateful for having received it. And then you faithfully remain grateful as if you have already received it, because the law promises you that you will be receiving that. And if you don't believe in the law, then, well, I can't help you there. The law, by the way, does... Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
I have a question, okay? So I can be faithful to my new self. I see myself exactly where I am, and then all of a sudden I get sidetracked. Mm-hmm. And I find it difficult, and I waste too much freaking time on that sidetrack.
Okay, so you need tools. Over. You need tools. So what are the tools?
I don't know. What are the tools?
Give yourself a tool. I'll tell you what my tool was. It was a pretty straightforward one. I wrote on the back of my goal card, which I carried with me, faith of a mustard seed. That was it. That was my tool. I looked at that, reminded me, well, the lesson is learned. All I need to do is focus on what I want to create, not how I'm going to create it. In fact, you won't know. Like, how could anybody predicted that the computer system would have shut down? That they would have been given from 9 o'clock in the morning till noon the next day to finish up placing all their orders? Who would have thought that? You couldn't have predicted that. So you've just got to trust that whatever will be, but you know what your outcome is. You just stay transfixed on that and not be concerned with the how. We worry about how. It doesn't matter how. How will be how will be. And you'll know that when it's done.
So you're saying that when I get sidetracked, it's because all of a sudden I start thinking how. Is that what you're saying?
I think you start feeling doubt, you start thinking how. But the question is not whether that's going to happen to you. You're human. It's how fast can you get back on the wagon? That's what you got to do. You got to get right back on it. Catch yourself. Catch yourself when you're not thinking or feeling what you're supposed to be thinking and feeling. Catch yourself.
When you were talking about what you had on the back of your card with your faith of a mustard seed, when you were talking about changing your direction, how quickly that can happen, the one thing that came to my mind was a dragonfly and how quickly they shift direction. And I'm always amazed when I watch them in the summertime to see how quickly they can shift. So I think for me, you know, I think I'm going to have a picture of a dragonfly or something there to remind me that I need to shift back to where I want to go, where I'm headed.
That's it. Give yourself a tool. Our life cycle plan was sort of the beginning of touching the scratch of the surface of this concept of the law of attraction, where you look at pictures of what you imagine your life to be. But it's not enough to just look at pictures. You have to actually physically feel that. Unless you're physically feeling it, you're not in the vibrational space of it. So how do you know if you're on point? Because you feel it. That's why giving yourself some affirmations about what it feels like would be helpful. So you can reestablish the feeling. Whatever tools work for you to get you to feel like you are that person experiencing that life is the key.
Falling in
Mary.
love.
Yeah, Mary?
This might be too soon to boast about, but last week when I made a decision that I'm going to follow the law of assumption to the letter, I started just saying to myself in the morning, at night, before I went to bed, I am a platinum. I am very grateful I'm a platinum. I introduced myself to you, Michael, as your new platinum, Mary Mira Platinum Robson. So I have been very busy. It looks like I might have 4 new consultants by the end of this week. We've got 2 customers on my team. So, and today I was driving to one of my appointments and there's a Nissan Platinum car. It says Platinum in the back of it as I'm driving along. So I haven't got everybody signed up. I've got some of the forms here, but I haven't done it yet. So I hope I'm not putting
No, don't even consider that. Don't
Okay,
hope. No.
No, okay.
So you are that. You just
I
live that, you breathe that, that's it. Because, you know, there's a passage where it says, don't look back, you'll turn into a pillar of salt.
Oh, yeah.
That's what that's about. That's what it's about. Don't look back and assume or reassume that person, the role of that person, because then you're dooming yourself to continually repeat that mistake, that error. So it's moving forward with a vision to the future as if the future was now.
Yeah. And I'm going back and forth still, but I am just working on I am a platinum.
So it's the probability. You continue to move the probability and becomes more and more probable. So it's simply the exercise of, a disciplined mind. These guys who go and study in Tibet and isolate themselves on mountaintops, all they're doing is disciplining. They're becoming very disciplined in their thoughts. They can cool their body temperature or warm their body temperature because their thoughts are so accurate and so precise. They don't veer. They're not subjective. They're very deliberate. So we live in a world right now where the television is flashing pictures every 2 seconds. Where you're bombarded with messages, text messages, like the speed of information distracting you and conditioning you to be distracted is taking you away from your ability to be a creative spirit. It's the act of focus and deliberate and intention focused is what causes all creation to come into being, especially in an accelerated way. So all we need to do is get a little bit better at that and give yourself ways of doing it to get you back on track faster.
Okay. May I just add another comment? There is a Buddhist saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So today I was cleaning my suite, and I was on my knees doing the carpet, and I said, platinum, before platinum, vacuum your rug, and after platinum, vacuum it as a platinum, a much better, higher level of enlightenment. So that's what I was doing this afternoon.
All right, guys. Well, time's up. I've got another call to get to as well. You guys got some stuff to do. Again, we'll keep this dialogue going. I will be looking to fill those dates in March. If you have some dates that you'd like me to plug in maybe via Zoom over the next few weeks, except the span of the 20th to the 25th, my daughter gets me full-time that space. Otherwise, I'm open to be on some of your Zoom calls if you think that might be helpful. All righty? Have an awesome week, guys. Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much.
Thank